This is Aaron Edwards, Santos Springs. Welcome to this week's edition of the Friday Field Report South America, February 27th, 2026. Man, March is right around the corner. So we want to go over what's going on with crops in South America. Main focus is going to be soybean harvest in Brazil, double crop corn planting in Brazil. And really to talk about those, the main headline is weather. Have you ever had a time in the field where you're a little bit behind on your field work? It's been raining too much to get in the field. It's not horrible, but you've been mainly struggling to get outside for the last 10 days because it's on and off rain. Well, in a nutshell, that's pretty much where most of Brazil is. We're going to drill down into the numbers and jump into a little bit more detail on that so you can have an idea on where we're at. So let's go from there. The first thing that I want to show is soybean harvest. So let me go ahead and share the screen. All right, so you can see the highlighted number, 32.3%. That's where they're currently at with their harvest. Soybean harvest is 32.3% harvested. For the sake of perspective, and let me grab a marker here to mark it up. Let's go with yellow. The 5-year average is 36.6, so they are below the 5-year average, a little over 4%, and they're also below last year. So soybean harvest is delayed, not the end of the world. To a customer down there, and I'm going to be talking about his specific region in a little bit because I feel like it highlights an interesting situation. He's right on the border between Mato Grosso do Sul and Mato Grosso, real good area. But the way he said it was, yeah, we're behind on soybean harvest. Yields are great whenever we can get them out. Corn harvest is bothering, safrinha corn planting is bothering us a little bit more because we're running out of the planting window. So I'm going to talk about that region. I'm going to show you specifically on a map where they farm because I think it's interesting. But so in a nutshell, soybean harvest is delayed. How big of a story is that? And I'm not even going to highlight too much state by state on this chart because we'll just see. Let me go. There we go. North to south, this is past precipitation over the last week. Anywhere from about an inch to about 2.5 or 3 inches, but most parts of Brazil got between 1 and 2 inches of rain. That's the lion's share of the production region. It's just basically north to south, 1 to 2 inches of rain last week. They were already on the wet side. You get another 2 inches of rain. Some progress has been made, depending on how quick it dries up, but in some areas, depending on spacing and volumes of rain, not very much got done. It's a lot of rain. So it's just exactly what I said at the beginning of the video. Stop and go, check field conditions. Is there rain forecasted? Run a little bit more. Oh, we got rained out. That's been the story of what's been going on down there. And that's pretty much north to south. The next image, we're going to spend a little bit more time on because instead of this north to south rain, we start seeing a bit of a different trend. So let me grab a marker here. This is expected rainfall over the upcoming week. And a couple of things that I want to point out. We're going to go state by state. This area here, where at some extreme, that pink is 7 inches of rain. So this area here, that's the Mato Piba region. That's that northeast expansion. This area here is the Vale do Araguaia. I'm being a little bit generous with marking it, but it's eastern Mato Grosso and part of Goiás. Then up in here you have southern Pará. So those are all, we'll walk through those regions in a little bit. The heartland, and I'm going to circle Mato Grosso as a whole. The heartland is Mato Grosso, which is 1 in 3 bushels of soybeans, and all of Brazil is produced in this state. And you could see that in northern Mato Grosso, just huge volumes of rain. Way at the southern part, there's actually no rain forecasted. So most of the state has way too much rain on top of a wet crop. As you move south, then it starts clearing up. This place here is the state of São Paulo, very important state for Brazil, not one of the most important states for production. Over here we have Mato Grosso do Sul, which is a pretty significant state, about 11% of Brazil's soybeans. We'll go over the numbers in a little bit. That's a pretty significant state. And the other significant state is Paraná. So we're going to talk about that. You don't need to remember all of this information, but what I want you to remember is basically almost Goldilocks, right? This is too much rain in the northern part. We're going to talk about that. And then we've got no rain, which in this area, which is actually pretty good news. And then we've got some rain, but probably not enough rain to keep you out of the field, which is over there, which is, quarter an inch, half an inch. So it kind of, I want you to remember those rain patterns, because now what we're going to do is we're going to drill in state by state and look at their delays. So now you don't need to remember those names that I was rattling off, because we're going to go over those one at a time. And the way I'm going to do this is we're going to do red here is going to be the areas that had way too much rain. And Goiás, I'm going to do as red because they're already delayed, although it was half and half. So on the bottom part of Goiás, they had less than 3 inches in the week. The rest was red. So a lot of rain here. A lot of rain in Piauí. A lot of rain in Tocantins. Basically yellow, we're going to do no rain or very limited rain. No rain or limited rain were these two states. A lot of rain in Maranhão forecasted. And then the blue is going to be a little bit of rain, right? Not a lot of rain, but a little bit of rain. A little bit of rain, a little bit of rain. And then Mato Grosso, that powerhouse state, we're going to split it. The northern part was red, way too much rain. The southern part was about 1 to 2 inches of rain on the week. So rain, but not crazy. So that's just kind of reminding you of the weather patterns. Now with that information, let's drill into that. And what we looked at, that was the upcoming, what's expected over the next 7 days, right? The colors I put down here, what's expected over the next 7 days. So now let's drill into those. This Goiás, they are already, what's that? 17 point. They're already behind 17.6%. And they're getting either way too much rain or plenty of rain. That's probably the worst state from a standpoint of delays this year. That's the state that's, if not the state, one of the states that's getting hit the hardest. These two states, plenty of rain, but they're actually on pace with planting. So this week, okay, we might be delayed after this week, but it's not that big of a story because they're getting way too much rain, but they're already on pace with planting. So we'll see, future weather will dictate whether that's bad or not. Then we look at São Paulo. There's an issue here where historically they would be 10% planted, and they've not done anything yet. But last year they hadn't done anything yet. So it's just been very, very wet. If anything, I think they'll probably be able to get caught up this week on their double crop corn. I also think it's important, and that this is a small production state. This is not a significant production state. But I do think it's important. I have heard possibility of reduction of acres. So there might be acreage adjustment, but this is a state, that São Paulo, that's one that I would not be surprised if they don't leapfrog. Oh, they're behind, get a dry week, report say 2 weeks from now, and oh, they're all caught up, right? The reason I say 2 weeks from now is because if they have one dry week, by the time we get, the report on planting next week, we're looking at not next week's report, we're looking at a report 10 days from now. Minas, behind pace, they probably get caught up. That's the next one down. So if we want to do, this is okay. This one is probably okay. They're behind, but they could probably get caught up. This is okay. This is okay. This is absolutely not okay. Mato Grosso do Sul is an interesting one. That's this state right here. Because they are very far behind. Historically, they would be a third of the way, almost a third of the way planted. They're at under 20%. But they are going to have a dry week next week. So what I expect to see is incredible amounts of field work getting done to where I actually think they could get caught up. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say okay on this one. But there's a bit of a question mark on that. And I'm going to say okay on Paraná because they can probably close this gap unless the weather forecast change. Yes, they're 8 percentage points behind, but they can probably close that gap pretty quickly with favorable weather. And right now it's looking like they do have favorable weather. So the areas that are concerning, Goiás is, I believe the worst. Maranhão is probably will stay delayed. I don't know if it's necessarily a bullish story yet, but probably stays delayed. And Mato Grosso, I would expect probably also stays delayed. And that is a big one. Mato Grosso, if we look in terms of production, if Goiás, which is a big production state, and Mato Grosso, which is also a big production state, even though it's only 2 states, it's about 40% of the production region. So there is potentially a bullish story, but compared to last week, I think that the story has gotten less bullish from a standpoint of delayed corn acreage. Now, these are forecasts. Forecasts change all the time, so we can get adjusted forecasts, but I would say based on what we know today, the forecast got less bullish when it comes to the delayed planting of safrinha corn. There are a couple of states where the situation is still very serious, but those are, there's 2 or 3 states that very likely this upcoming week will be an absolute lifesaver for their corn planting. At least they should be able to get it in, get it on time, get caught up. So we'll watch the report over the next couple weeks like we do every week and make sure that they get caught up. If anything, I think it's slightly less bullish than it has been. And that is the major story out of this week is soybean harvest, double crop corn planting. Hope you have a great rest of your day, great weekend. And if you have any question on grain sales, don't hesitate to reach out.